Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, letters from asylum seekers detained at the border, now living behind bars.
This represents a person who is a creative, courageous human being who is detained, held in prison because he was fleeing death threats and torture.
We share some of their stories. Plus, President Trump orders more troops to the southern border, but a lot of local troops have since left. What they're up to now. And the plan to redevelop the Mission Valley Stadium site is officially underway. The next steps in the process. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Susan Murphy. Hundreds of letters written by asylum seekers in a privately run detention center in Otay Mesa are available to the public in a new San Diego State University library archive. KPBS border reporter Jean Guerrero shows us some of their stories.
The letters offer an unprecedented look at the stories of asylum seekers locked up by the U.S. government and a detention company called CoreCivic, often for months without access to the outside world. San Diego State University volunteers sent letters to the detainees and offered funds for postage stamps to write back. Joanna Brooks says the project was meant to humanize people who have been dehumanized.
To make these lives visible, to hold up these stories, to say these are human beings who came to this place fleeing death threats, fleeing torture, fleeing civil war. Their voices need to be heard.
She reads from one of the letters.
I have no idea what is ahead for me, what is my future. I tell you what will happen if they return me to Eritrea. They will put me in prison and they will kill me.
Brooks says many of the asylum seekers expressed gratitude for the letters. Some sent gifts they made from dental floss and other materials scrounged at detention.
This represents a person who is a creative, courageous human being who is detained, held in prison because he was fleeing death threats and torture.
The letters from more than 200 detainees are being digitized and are available for viewing online. Kate Swanson of the university says they analyzed the letters for a report about conditions inside the center.
What students were doing was reading, translating, transcribing, and then eventually we decided to start coding the letters because what we were hearing was an overwhelming number of reports of human rights abuses.
They found complaints about the food, medical neglect, and forced labor. The university sent a copy of the report to the California Attorney General, lawmakers, and Homeland Security. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Most of the Marines from Camp Pendleton and 29 Palms quietly left the border last week. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says some details are emerging about what they've been doing since October.
In recent months, California has had more troops deployed along the border than any other border state. The Department of Defense now says most of those troops left February 1st when the mission expired. After the president ordered troops to the border, then Secretary of Defense James Mattis said troops were not expected to have direct contact with migrants. This week, a spokesperson for Army North says forces have been in the vicinity of rock throwing from the Mexican side of the border. The incidents are described as minor. In January, medical personnel evaluated and treated about 200 migrants for minor illnesses and ailments in California and Arizona. Migrants were turned back over to the Border Patrol for processing or transferred to civilian hospitals for further treatment. Pentagon officials will not say exactly how many troops are on the California border with Mexico right now. California will receive some of the influx of 3,750 troops, which were announced on Sunday. Their new mission is to lay 160 miles of wire barrier along parts of the border between ports of entry from here to Texas. They will also conduct mobile surveillance. California Governor Gavin Newsom's office says the governor will decide within the next few days whether 400 California National Guard troops will remain along the border. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Groups in 2 San Diego neighborhoods are teaming up to assist the homeless population in their area. KPBS reporter Taryn Mentos says they've funded a new position that provides one-on-one help to those living on the streets.
The Homeless Outreach Coordinator seeks out unsheltered populations in North Park in City Heights to personally help them overcome barriers to housing. Funding and resources for the role come from a collaboration of elected officials and community groups. That includes City Heights Community Development Corporation. Executive Director Laura Ann Fernia says the coordinator doesn't just refer people to services, but actually goes with them.
To get them their ID so they can actually access their Social Security money, to finding out if there's a place they can go to move in to live, to finding out how to get them some medical care.
The position is a pilot program set to last 1 year pending the results of an impact study. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
The coordinator position is funded in part by Price Philanthropies, which is also a supporter of KPBS. San Diego County has the 6th highest ozone pollution level in the country, according to the American Lung Association. And one local lawmaker says in the midst of a climate change crisis, the problem demands urgent action. California Assemblyman Todd Gloria says the governing board of the Air Pollution Control District that oversees the region's air quality needs an overhaul. The board is currently comprised solely of members of the County Board of Supervisors. Gloria is proposing legislation to bring on 11 members of local city governments, as well as experts and the public.
By transforming San Diego's Air Pollution Control District into a more diverse and representative body, I firmly believe that we have real potential to get the county to take aggressive action on climate change and ensure that whatever strategies are implemented, that they are done so equitably throughout our entire region.
Gloria says the board must adopt strict rules to reduce emissions and improve public health. The proposed bill, AB 423, will be heard in committee in April. San Diego State University is taking important steps in the process to reshape the Mission Valley Stadium site and turn it into an auxiliary campus. A comprehensive environmental impact review is now underway. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson shows us where the project goes from here.
We are really excited about this opportunity.
Laura Shin welcomed a few dozen people to one of several public meetings this month seeking input about SDSU's plans for Mission Valley. Those plans call for an extensive makeover of a property that's linked to the main university by a trolley line. What the university is hoping to do is to buy about 132 acres of the land here. They want to tear down this stadium, and then up in the northwest corner, they want to build a new multi-purpose stadium that seats 35,000 people. This parking area will be transformed once the development is done into a new campus that includes classrooms, office space, hotels, and up to 4,600 homes. And then if you look here south of the trolley line, that area will become a brand new river park. Shin says the school has already begun studying the site, trying to gauge how the area will be affected, and the public has an important role.
We want to make sure that as we're studying all of the impacts, we're not missing anything. So traffic, for example, we have traffic engineers, and they're in the next room, and they'll talk to people in detail about what they've observed and what they've studied and how they think this project is going to impact it. But the community really knows in a very real way where the traffic problems are today and what they're concerned about.
Look at the entrances. People coming here are going to try and go that way. People are coming here trying to go that way. People are coming down here, and where are they all going to park?
City resident Phil Pride envisions a busy campus with lots of comings and goings from both cars and on the trolley.
I think you're going to need some kind of special pass so students can go back a lot of times.
An early analysis of traffic flows already hints there will need to be upgrades around the Interstate 15 interchange at Friars Road, and Cicely Taylor says the main entrance to the stadium site from Serra Mesa also needs to be redone.
We're expecting to see some need for improvement along Mission Village, specifically that bridge. The project is looking to widen the bridge to help people get in and out.
The environmental impact review will try to measure everything from changes to air quality, how water moves through the property when it rains, where people will be, and what recreation and public services will be included. And the Audubon Society's Jim Pugh wants to make sure planners remember the animals that live there.
This is kind of the only tributary canyon that there really could be a wildlife connection, which is really frustrating because there should be we should have, had we thought about it, we should have left a connection with all of them. So we want to, currently with the stadium not being used much at night, wildlife can move across the parking lot pretty much at will.
San Diego State University officials will have to account for all of those issues and more, and they hope the process moves along quickly. Planner Laura Shin expects a draft environmental document to be ready for public review by summer. She says a final environmental impact document will hopefully be ready for the California State University Board of Trustees by next January. That would allow the new stadium to be built in time for the 2022 football season.
It is an aspirational schedule, but we've all committed to it, and we have a lot of really high-quality people working on it, so I have confidence that we'll make it.
The environmental review is part of the process required under the California Environmental Quality Act, but it does not include negotiating the deal to sell the city-owned land to Sdsu. School officials did meet with the city shortly after the ballot initiative passed in November, but formal negotiations setting the terms of the sale have not yet begun. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, House Democrats grill Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker about his role in the Mueller investigation. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A local lawmaker hopes to crack down on what he says is an epidemic of robocalls in California. State Senator Ben Hueso introduced a bill that would force telecommunication companies to block illegal, fraudulent calls in California, also known as robocalls. These calls generate $900 million a year for identity thieves. The robocallers are able to get around call blocking and caller ID by using what appears to be local numbers. They use the same area code to fool consumers into thinking they're receiving a local call. Lawmakers say these tactics work on the most vulnerable members of society.
A person can generate with one computer thousands and thousands of calls in an instant, in some cases tens of thousands of calls. And that's their strategy. The wider net they cast, the better chance they have to find somebody that might fall into their scheme. And they might be willing to surrender a driver's license, a credit card number, a bank account number, some way that they can either steal your identity or get access to your money.
The bill was recently introduced in the state Senate. It also calls on the California Public Utility Commission to work with the state attorney general to crack down and punish robocallers. Thousands of California drivers who paid to renew their licenses have been left in limbo as the DMV admits to yet another major error. Last year, the agency sent notices informing drivers they could renew their licenses 150 days before it expired, but the DMV's technology could only accept payments 115 days before a license expires. Now, thousands of customers who paid online or by mail are still left without a valid license. State lawmakers say this needs to be fixed fast.
The big concern here is that we have, I think, a lot of California drivers who are making a very tough choice today, whether to drive without a license, it's no fault of their own, or figure out some other way of getting around. The DMV owes it to these people to immediately get this fixed and issue those driver's license they have been paid for. They better deliver them.
The DMV says it has since fixed the system error. Californians are feeling good about the state's current governor and legislature. Capitol Public Radio's Randall White has more on the results of a new survey.
The Public Policy Institute of California poll shows 70% of adults favor Governor Gavin Newsom's proposed budget. Those surveyed were even more supportive of increased funding for early childhood programs and higher education, with nearly 4 out of 5 adults on board. PPIC's president, Mark Baldessari, says these numbers are surprisingly high.
In a sense, it's a gift coming into Governor Newsom because he inherited a significant budget surplus, which he has, indicated that there will be funding increases in areas where the public feels that funding is needed.
Those surveyed also want the governor and legislature to tackle immigration issues. 2/3 believe those currently elected at the state level can work together to accomplish important goals. This is in stark contrast to their pessimistic beliefs about national politics. In Sacramento, I'm Randall White.
We're here with Miro Kopik from Sdsu and Bottom Line Marketing for the Friday Business Report. Miro, welcome.
Thank you, Susan.
Let's start with SeaWorld. Business has improved since the Blackfish controversy, and this week the company announced the hiring of a new CEO. How does this fit into SeaWorld's strategy of evolving its brand?
You know, they hired a new CEO from Carnival Cruise Lines, of all things. Big focus on travel and leisure. He had helped Carnival with a big turnaround that was very similar to SeaWorld's. So this is going to be a first-time CEO role for him, but he comes in, the current interim CEO, John Riley, who used to run SeaWorld San Diego, is going to remain as COO, a position that he held before stepping up as the interim CEO. So it'll be a good blend of experience of Riley understanding the actual SeaWorld culture and theme park dynamics. The new CEO brings in a lot of new ideas. He is a consultant from Boston Consulting Group before he came to Carnival. So he knows strategy, and SeaWorld is looking for strategy. They're looking for vision, and Riley brings in the operations. And I think combined, they're going to really help the turnaround that's already been started to improve in 2019 and 20.
General Motors, they plan to have EV technology in all of its vehicles in the next few years. Should we expect more of this from other automakers?
You know, GM is a little late to the party. You know, everyone's kind of looking at Tesla. They've really kind of turned the industry. For a long time, the production and EV technologies were a little bit behind, and car companies weren't looking to invest. GM even said with transitioning over to electric vehicles, it's going to be into the early 2020s when they're going to be profitable. And they're starting with the Cadillac brand, which is a higher price brand, kind of like Tesla. And so that's a good start for GM. They're behind because Volvo announced a couple of years ago they're going to go all electric by 2020. Ford announced earlier in the year that they're going to go all electric. And car companies are going through a big transformation. So not only electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, relationships with rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft, and then even they're becoming technology companies with their relationships with Apple and Android to making these entertainment systems and GPS systems effective in these cars. So big news for GM, and they're hoping to be profitable by the early 2020s.
And finally, the Trump administration is rolling back some rules on payday and other high-risk lenders. How will this affect people seeking short-term loans?
Well, actually, it'll improve the access to credit for consumers. But the issue is not whether there's more credit available, it's whether these people can actually pay the loans back. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau set up these requirements for payday lenders to make sure that borrowers can actually pay this back. Because they did a study that said 1 in 4 borrowers of payday loans would take a $500 loan, it would get rolled over for about 5 months, and they would pay more in fees and interest than the loan itself. So to protect consumers, they required these borrowing requirements. The Trump administration says these borrowing requirements are too restrictive. So they're going to ease them, and it's going to offer more credit to all sorts of consumers. The concern here is that it creates an underclass of consumer in the marketplace that's kind of beholden to these short-term loans. In the last 2 years alone, over 10 million millennials, so those between the ages of 20 and 35, have taken out a payday loan. You know, they're swimming in college debt, and they're trying to find ways to kind of bridge the gap. This is a bad start for people who are in the beginning of their career trying to build credit, trying to build kind of their savings, and they're spending a lot of that money on really high fees and interest.
Okay, Miro Kopik, marketing lecturer with Sdsu. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Susan.
San Diego repeals its ban on living in cars. Human research at the local VA has the attention of Congress, and the legal fight over a new police transparency law. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
You know it's a good weekend when there's tap dancing and dinosaurs involved. Here to give us details is KPBS arts editor Nina Guerin.
My Happy Place is a Gershwin musical filled with classic songs and dazzling choreography. exactly like the one that's being staged over at San Diego Musical Theater. Crazy for You is a zany romantic comedy set in Dead Rock, Nevada, a small town where cowboys can dance and where New York businessmen want to settle down. The show is set to favorite George and Ira Gershwin songs like I've Got Rhythm and Someone to Watch Over Me. It's written by comedic playwright Ken Ludwig, so the dialogue is filled with wordplay and one-liners. But what makes this show a standout is all the ambitious dance, especially the tap sequences choreographed by Jill Gorey. If you like to mix your classical music with your rock and roll, be sure to check out Two Cellos. This pair of classically trained Croatian cellists plug in their instruments to make music that combines favorite rock songs with classical compositions. They are equally comfortable handling Bach and Nirvana. Two Cellos is best known for its covers of Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal and Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit, and you can expect to hear this kind of blend when they perform in San Diego this weekend. Finally, the San Diego Symphony brings a new level of excitement to Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. The Oscar-winning film about a dinosaur theme park will be projected on a large screen, while the orchestra performs the score live as the movie plays. The music is by legendary composer John Williams, and along with watching the drama on screen, you can watch the symphony musicians tackle this thrilling, complex score. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Blue skies are here now, but that will change over the weekend. Let's go to meteorologist Daji Aswad for our full weather report.
As we continue through tonight, we'll be tracking out our low pressure system. Here's a look at the satellite radar from earlier. You can see that counterclockwise flow pushing in moisture in towards the Bay Area. That will continue once again, some of that moisture to drop in towards Los Angeles and then eventually into San Diego. Going to be on the light side in terms of a precipitation, really only anticipating about 0.15 inches of rain as we head into, once again, your Saturday morning. You're looking at partly cloudy skies tonight with a low of 50. As we take you into the regional forecast, also looking at clouds in towards Borrego Springs with a low of 40. Oceanside, you'll get a taste of that wet weather before San Diego with a low 41 and 30 in towards Mount Laguna. We continue into your Saturday. We're still talking about wet conditions moving through California, snow out towards the Sierras, and even some snow making its way in towards Nevada as well as into Utah. Breezy, unsettled for the start of the weekend here across much of California. Looking at a high of 59 in Oceanside, 61 in San Diego. And as you head into Borrego Springs, a high of 64, 40 in Mount Laguna with clouds and sun mixing. As far as our futurecast goes, we're going to kick it off Friday at 9 p.m., so a little later tonight. You're noticing clouds still in place here, and then into the overnight hours into your morning, that's when we definitely notice that rain coming in for San Diego as well as in the Oceanside, continuing to make its way further inland out towards Borrego Springs, dropping further south, and then clouds fill in for your Saturday night. Head past that into your Sunday, we'll get a return of moisture here Sunday morning, and we'll continue to see that through Sunday evening, and we'll see that clear on out from Oceanside, but San Diego around 6 p.m. on your Sunday still going to be dealing with showers. Into the early week, drying out here across Southern California, so that's great news, but in the meantime, still going to be looking at, once again, some wet conditions for tomorrow morning into your Sunday afternoon, drying out Monday, cool with the high of 57. Going to see the same trend inland. Showers for Saturday, Sunday, Monday a bit dry as well as Tuesday, then mid to late week, going to notice some wet weather, mountains, chance for some snow 3,500 feet and above. Rain and drizzle also going to be likely in the deserts for your Sunday with a high of 64. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Swad. Back to you.
What's it like to produce one of the longest-running game shows in television history? Eliza Mills from Marketplace goes behind the scenes of The Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal to find out.
My name is Mike Richards. I'm the executive producer of The Price is Right and of Let's Make a Deal. I've been in TV for 20 years now. I've hosted a bunch of shows. I hosted a show called Beauty and the Geek. That was the most famous one. My job is as fun as you would think it is. It is about making sure everything gets done on time and then ultimately on TV. We have about 130 to 150 people working on the show. So there's crew who work incredibly hard. They're moving the sets in and out, the cars, the games. We have producers up there that are making sure that everything looks great and that everything makes sense and that all the prices are correct. You have to understand how things are going to work, what the probabilities of things are, because you don't want a show with all losses. And so we're playing against that a lot. We want to make sure that people win, but if everybody wins, then it's not a game show, it's a giveaway. What we have noticed is that when the economy is roaring, people are here and having fun. They're here for the experience. When the economy is struggling, I think people grab onto us more. In 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, all of those tough years, we had a lot of people in the audience coming. We had a lot of people watching at home. So for sure, our show kind of rides those waves of the economy. I think what makes a great game show is something that has great play along. We do 190 episodes a year, and making every single one important. So whether it's just winning a toaster or a car or $100,000, we've made everyone's day a little better. We're not changing the world, but we are making it a little bit better. And so I think the best part is we change people's lives.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.